guys, what's going on? Sadiq. Welcome to Experiences with Sadiq. Season 2. Experiences with Sadiq is about all things real estate. A show where communication is key, advocating for the people is bliss, and knowledge, it's inspiring. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the show. And oh yeah, don't forget to follow me on all my social media platforms. Whether you're buying or selling a home, I'm that guy. Let's go! What's going on, guys? It's your man Sadiq. Welcome to Experiences with Sadiq. So I'm interviewing a great individual today. The guy's been in the business for some time. And the reason why I wanted to sit down with this person is because there was an article that came out, and I feel like it's very important that we base our conversation around this article, right? And you guys will understand, where we're going. But before we even start, I need this guy to introduce himself because he's been in the game for a while. So if you don't mind, the big fella himself, what's going on? Interview yourself. Share who you are. Let the people know exactly who you are, where you're from, what you're about.
Sure. Thank you, Sadiq. Thank you for taking the time to interview with me and to be able to do this. So my name is Nathan Clark. I own Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, the Nathan Clark team here in Rhode Island. Nice. As you mentioned, I've been doing it a while, and it seems like it's longer and longer. It's been about 18 years now. I've been doing real estate, and I can remember when I started, it was, I remember like, wow, what would 5 years be like in real estate? What would 10 years be like? I can't imagine. Yeah. And it goes by very quick. So people that are watching this and, very quickly, you'll see 20 years like that.
Damn, that means in 20 years, I just turned 40. I'll be 60. So it's like, oh my gosh, if that goes by so fast, I'm just going to be like, no. But that's crazy. So you grew up in Rhode Island. What part of Rhode Island?
Gloucester. So, I started in the real estate industry. I was obviously, I'm 25 now, I think.
You look good for your age.
I appreciate that. No, so I was very young. I was 20 years old. Yeah. I got licensed.
Nice.
And, started selling real estate and took to it pretty good. Mm-hmm. It was a good market, nice. Much like now. It was 2004. So it was a really good market to get in. Yeah. And things have changed, man. But when I started, there was no Zillow. Zillow just came out in 2006, started coming around. Yeah. So people didn't have email as much back then. It was a lot different. Business was done a lot different back then.
Damn. So how did you go about building it without having the tools that's available now?
There's good and bad. There's always opportunity, right? Whatever's coming out there, whatever's next out there, we don't need to look at it as being afraid of it. It's just a change, and it's adapt to it. And we have to adapt. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes the biggest problem that a lot of people have is they don't adapt. And when you don't do that, you become like the dinosaurs of, fine, don't change. And so it was a period of that time that I was really quick on getting on top of the cutting edge of what's changing, where things are going, and knowing where things are going and be ahead of that. And once we were able to do that, we saw a lot of increase. But back then you did things, you'd print out 4 purchase and sales agreements, and you'd get 4 live signed signatures.
Oh my God.
And we would deliver 1 to the seller, 1 to the buyer, 1 to the loan company, and we'd hold on to 1.
What?
Yeah, and so that was how business was done. I remember one time, we would send people houses for sale, right? Mm-hmm. This was before people had access to MLS. Yep. Right, we would send people properties, and people didn't have email. So I would buy fax machines, and I would, if you were my client and you were looking for a house, I would buy you a fax machine. I'd come to your house, plug it in, and that would save me time to have to call you and tell you about the properties. I could just fax you the properties, and so.
I've never heard of that. That's a very genius. I guess I want to say it's a genius way of doing business, right? Because you're providing a tool for a client in order to be able to work as efficient as possible, especially not having the technology that we have today. And just by you stepping out of that comfort zone and doing that, I think that's crazy. I've never heard of any other realtor that I've interviewed that's been in the game for some time actually took that initial step. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Well, those are little things that we did. I mean, you're just buying that stuff, but it's kind of leveraging your time.
Yeah.
Be able to do more every day.
No, it's unique, right? Because when you talk about service, right, and you want to provide something that's as efficient as possible for people to be able to utilize or for people to be able to, I guess, adapt to make their life easier, but more so the agent's life easier, right? Mm-hmm. So when you do that and you're thinking That's like thinking ahead. If you really think about it, because you don't have nothing else.
Right.
So thinking outside the box, that's the creative level. Now, do you consider yourself somebody who is always thinking creativity wise in terms of just trying to be a step ahead and just trying to figure out ways that you could always become better?
Absolutely. I mean, this is something that I think every entrepreneur looks at is, as a business owner, I think it's your job of trying to vision cast where things are going and be ahead of where that is. And, there's certain levels that everybody hits in their business, and it's kind of like the next level, or this is what you have to be doing. Next level, this is what you have to be doing. Right now, that's what I enjoy doing, is finding creative ways to solve problems and be different. And I think that's kind of what we were talking about, that article that we were reading. I know you read it. I sent you. I said, hey, this would be interesting to talk about. Is really where the real estate industry is going very quickly.
Yeah, and good thing that you actually led into that, because the main reason for this podcast is to shine light on that. So for most people who haven't read the article, especially like realtors or brokers that haven't read this article, we're going to talk about an important factor in regards to how buyers and sellers get paid when it comes to commission, right? The DOJ, I guess, they backed out, I guess it was an agreement or something like that, in regarding to the antitrust law when it comes to, with the NAR, which is the national, which is the
I do the same thing.
which is NAR is the National Association of Realtors, right? We all are integrated with NAR, right? They play a pivotal role in how we conduct our business, the rules and regulations that we follow, and all that crazy stuff. So I guess the DOJ backed out, and a lot of people don't understand the commission factor of how us agents really get paid. Mm-hmm. When I was reading the article, it kind of stunned me in a way, because I've had discussions with other individuals when it comes to commission pay. Mm-hmm. From your knowledge, your knowledge, your experience in regards to it all, what's your take in regards to how commissions paid out between buyers and sellers? One, two, the transparency aspect of it that a lot of, I guess, clients, they don't see, but do you think there should be a transparency factor to that?
Yes, and this has been something that I've been in front of since probably about 2012, 2013. So we got to kind of back up really what the issue is and why it's come to this point, okay? So 30 years ago, 40 years ago, what real estate was there was no buyer agent. So as somebody who's watched this understand that maybe they're not in real estate, so I'll kind of start there, is when a house is put on the market, there's a commission that the seller pays, right? And to 1980s, okay, there was just one commission. There's no such thing as buyer agency, okay? So a listing company, ABC Realty, would be hired to list this property or sell this property. The seller would pay them X amount of dollars, let's just say 10%, right, commission to sell the property, okay? They would put the house on the market, and they would offer another agent, if they had somebody, a commission to come out there, let's say 5%, okay, to help sell the property. The total would be 10%, and the seller would pay 10%, and the broker would be responsible for paying the 5%, because they have an agreement with the multiple listing service that if you put this in, at that time it was a book. There was no internet. It was literally a printout of houses about this thick, and they'd update every month. You'd find the house.
Talking about dinosaur.
And I remember them. I remember them. We had them. The buyer agency would be paid out X on here, okay? But there was no buyer agency. You really technically represented the seller. Even though you were paid that 5%, you represented the seller. In the 90s, when the buyer agency started coming out saying you can represent a buyer exclusively, right? So we always think that buyer agency has been out there forever, and hasn't. Is technically, in the beginning, you would be the listing agent, Sadiq, and I had a buyer, but I represented the seller. Wow. And I'll bring the buyer in.
So basically,
I'll help broker the deal. You pay me half.
Interesting. That's really interesting. So now the issue is, right, fast forwarding to now. How do you feel that sellers should be responsible? We haven't even gone to the transparency yet, but do you feel like the seller agent should be responsible to pay a buyer agent?
I'm going to say no, and I'm going to explain it to you why.
Here
I
we
think
go.
it's transparency. And a lot of people are going to have a difficulty understanding that, and because I got to kind of keep on going forward with the history of it. Okay, at that time, okay, buyer agencies started coming out, and that really changed the industry where franchises were not around. It was like if you listed, you the top listing company, you dominated it, and you controlled listings, you controlled the market. And then buyer agencies started, okay, and franchises started coming in that weren't in the area, and they were able to attract agents and say, hey, you could be a buyer's agent and make a commission on this. And people really loved that because now the NAR got more membership. Okay, MLS got more membership.
Yep.
Okay, the coffers got full. Hey, we have all these agents. So we went from 4,000 to 8,000 to whatever 1,000 realtors very quickly. Yeah. Because of buyer agency, so they really liked it, okay? And there was no transparency because it was on the internet. Many buyers never understood. The biggest question still you get from buyers is how do you get paid when you work with a buyer? So what would happen to is the buyers were holding the listing company and the seller hostage that you have to pay out a certain percentage or I won't show your property because the buyer didn't have access to the property. Remember, this was printed material at that time where it would be simply, okay, here's the property my buyer would be interested in, but this one's paying 5% and this one's paying 4%. Well, I'm not even going to tell them about that house for 4%. Okay?
Interesting.
And it happens every single day. Today, I still hear agents say that, which blows my mind because it's totally unethical.
They steer the client.
They steer the client based on what they're going to get paid. Yeah. Okay, well now things started changing in 2006 and Zillow came out and properties were put online where now the buyer could see everything was put online. Okay, where the buyer's agent no longer started controlling what the buyer saw. The buyer could get it themselves. Fast forward now 2021. Every buyer's agent, most buyer agents I know, when I say most, about 99% of the time, the buyer finds the property, contacts their agent, and says, hey, go show me this house. Okay, but the buyer's agent no longer controls what the buyer is going to look at.
Yep.
Okay, so for the last 30 years, buyer's agents kind of leveraged, I won't show your properties unless you pay out really good commissions to us. To now, the buyers are finding the property directly because the listing agent's advertising it online, on portals, on things like that. The buyer is finding it, and now the buyer is saying, I want representation, so I'm going to use Sadiq or Nathan to come and represent me. And then the buyer's agent comes up and he goes, oh, I still demand half. But what leverage does the buyer's agent have anymore that they demand half anymore? Why can they give those things? So where the conflict of interest is coming in with the Department of Justice, okay? This isn't just me saying, the Department of Justice saying is, you know, for years, companies like RE/MAX, Keller Williams, and I think there was a couple other ones they cited in there, are putting in their training, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Sadiq, you have to pay a 10% commission to sell your property because if I don't pay out at least 5% MLS, the buyer's agents won't show the property. And Department of Justice cited that exactly, that you're training that's not the truth. You're saying that to get higher commissions, hold higher commissions, and that's really antitrust. And MLS on the same side is helping out with that antitrust because what they're saying is, yeah, we're not going to let the buyers know what the commission is, and we'll let them manipulate. Like MLS has special rules that they can say some people can get paid what's MLS, and if I tell this person I'm not going to pay him what's an MLS. Well, why do they do that? They do that so they can leverage people to say, well, you all better stop paying the same thing to co-brokes because if you don't pay the same thing in co-brokes, they won't pay you the same thing that they put in MLS, which really is ripe for corruption. And this is exactly why Department of Justice is going after MLS and NAR for allowing these things to happen because it's just holding up commissions where realistically the truth of the matter is if a seller contracts you to represent them as a seller, they should pay you. And we just said, why does buyers, if the buyer's finding the property themselves, why do they need an agent?
Interesting.
Why? You tell me.
So here's my take on it, right? I agree and don't disagree, being transparent.
Yep.
And the reason why I agree and disagree is because one, I feel like I do understand where you're coming from. But with buyer's agent, they do a lot of driving around, all right? They spend a lot of time. Yes, totally get that today's day and age, you know, buyers are becoming a lot more savvy in regards to how they go about looking for properties before they even decide to ask for an agent to represent them, right? And then two, the reason why they most likely reach out to an agent for representation is because of things in the contract. They don't know how to do paperwork. And then on top of that, they just feel like without having representation on the listing side, it's easier for the agent to take it, because the agent who's listing the property is going to look out for the interest
100%.
of their
It's
seller.
their job.
Exactly. So with a buyer's agent, they there to represent and look out for that client. So I personally feel like as an agent, whether it's on the sell side or buy side, either way, there needs to be some type of representation on both ends, because it just comes down to, one side taking advantage and the other side thinking that they're getting screwed at the end of the. I don't know. You could let me know if I'm wrong, but that's how I think about it.
Listen, there's no wrong. There's no wrong. Here's what I'm just trying to say with this is, I think we're both on the same page. Just think about this for a second, right? So you're talking they need representation. I 100% agree with that. What I would just side with the consumer on this is where it's going. Okay, so
in terms of what?
As far as representation is,
Right.
what a crazy idea is. You hire me as a listing agent and you pay me my fee to represent you, but you also got to pay the buyer's agent to represent the buyer. And also that buyer's agent is going to look out for their buyer and try to bang you over the head and nickel and dime you on every home inspection issue that comes over. They're going to beat you up, but you're paying them. Right? That'd be like going to court and you have your defense attorney, but you're also paying the prosecutor to prosecute you. Right? Why would you do such a thing? So, and what a crazy, and that doesn't work. So you should, I think what would be transparent in the real estate industry is you hire me to sell your property, I represent you to sell, and the buyer says, hey, I want representation. Great. The buyer pays the buyer's agent to represent them. And so you sit there and say, no longer is it 10%, you now can say it's 5%. To sell the product, and that goes all to the listing company, and then the buyer can come directly to you as a listing agent, or the buyer can say, hey, I want Nathan to represent, or in this case, Sadiq as my buyer's agent, right? And I will pay Sadiq, let's just say 5%, okay, hypothetical number out there, to do such a thing, right? And then we put the deal together. That's exactly what Department of Justice is saying it needs to be. And that's how it works everywhere but North America. The average commission is about 2% in the rest of the world. America,
Actually, under that.
Right, it's about 2%. North America is the highest paid commissions in the world, and that's exactly what NAR is saying. And because of it, I'm going to be honest with you, and MLS and NAR ain't going to like this. It's because of the MLS and NAR rules that they protected this. And when the Department of Justice comes after you, it's because you've done wrong things. And when they pull out of this, and they're doing this even furthermore by their pocket listings, by saying the only way you can do business as a realtor is you have to give us the data to do it. They're saying you all have to operate the same box, the same shelf, and make sure everybody has the properties out there. Because if you don't give it to everybody, well, that's not fair to well, let's face it, 8,000 realtors in Rhode Island, 50% will never sell a house a year. 74% sell between 0 and 4 houses a year. So are they working mainly with buyers or sellers? You can say 80% of this market of agents out there are never going to list a house. They're just going to work with buyers. So do you think they care about the 20% of the agents that are doing listings, or the 80% that pay them their dues every single year and sell 2 or 3 houses and just work with buyers? So they're making it just so you have to feed. So the listing agent has to go out there, spend thousands of dollars marketing, attracting sellers, putting the house in the market, spending all this kind of money and time and efforts to list the house, market out there. And they have to put it in MLS so the other guys can see it and bring their buyer, versus being able to directly sell to their buyers that they have in a pool. So they're setting all these things up, and that's why this is anti-competitiveness. They're saying you're making everybody do everything the same way, so you can protect commissions and keep commissions high.
To benefit NAR.
NAR.
NRA.
How much did NAR make last year? How much did NAR make last year?
If I read correctly, it says something about $85 billion. Like, if I read correctly.
What'd they do for you? Right? So what did they do for you? They said, well, they have MLS. I don't need MLS to sell houses anymore.
Especially in today's day.
Because we already said, do consumers go to MLS to look for properties, or they go to Zillow?
No. They go to Zillow. They go to all these other third-party
MLS
sites.
is like the government. It's like antiquated. Like, who would ever want to go to this thing? Case in point, Zillow. How many agents go on Zillow to find houses? They will look on Zillow before they look on MLS to get information on house, because it's easier. It's consumer friendly. It's not a conglomerate like the government website like MLS is. So MLS is just posturing to hold everybody, saying if you want to be a realtor, You have to do business this way. And that in itself is creating issues where Zillow thrives because of that. Because when somebody comes in and says, well, all 8 billion agents, whatever number is in America, has to do business this way, well, you make it a commodity that some tech company's going to buy. Well, this is exactly what every realtor has to do. They have to put the house on the market within 24 hours. They have to put an MLS. They have to put pictures. We can do the same thing. Give us $500. We'll do it for you. And we complain why Zillow comes out there as we pay Zillow billions of dollars every year to do these things. So the issue has become, the Department of Justice is saying, hey, you guys are making a blockbusting here, basically. You're all telling consumers you have to pay a top commission because other agents won't be able to, won't see it because they won't see a commission coming in. And that's not true. And that's costing the buyer more money because who really pays the commission?
The seller agent.
No, the buyer. The buyer is paying the commission. They got to show up with the money to give to the seller to pay us. So if the commissions keep on going up.
Good thing you brought that point up. I'm actually happy that you brought that point up. So, so another part in the article read that just exactly what you said, that the buyers technically are the ones paying the commission because obviously they're the one who has the finances to purchase the property or whatever the case may be. But here's the thing though, right? What buyers, right? I'm going to step back a little bit because I don't want to forget some of that you mentioned before, because if I don't mention it, I'll forget. So earlier when you were speaking, here's my take on it. With buyers, some buyers have the ability to maybe pay a buyer's agent 5%, right? But not all buyers have that, especially with the way mortgages are done, right? So some buyers don't have reserves to pay an agent 2%, 3%, excuse me, whatever the case may be. So I guess my whole take on that aspect is like, what happens to those individuals who can't pay a buyer's agent? Are you saying they should go directly to the seller's agent?
No.
So
here's how it should work.
Yeah.
Here's the work. The same way you do business with everybody, right? You meet with an attorney.
No.
The attorney says, let me hear your case. Yes, I can help you. No, I can't help you. Yes, I can help you. Here's my fees per hour. This is what it's going to cost you. Here's a retainer. Let's go, right? Any respectable attorney. Attorney say, I'm going to do it for free. You got to kind of wonder, is like, are you really that good? All right, here's how real estate agents do business. You want to see some houses? All right, I'll go show you some houses. And they go show them houses. They don't sit down with the consumer and explain how most don't sit down and go over how we work, how we get paid, what we can do, more importantly, what we can't do, how houses come on the market, how we can get you access to the properties, how representation works, all those things. 99% of the time, you and me both know that's not happening. We see it all the time. We'll go put a house on the market, we list it, and all of a sudden somebody shows up and they're like, oh yeah, I'm meeting my client. And they're like, oh, you're the buyer's agent, okay. And they're like, yeah, I'm meeting my client for the first time. And we're like, okay. And they don't know what they look like, and they're meeting them, they just came off of Zillow or something like that. And they come to the door, and the consumer shows up and goes, I thought I was meeting the listing agent. And they're like, no, I'm your agent. I'm your agent.
I've
and the
seen
person's
that
like,
happen.
I've seen it happen hundreds of times. So these things happen because it's not explained. But if there was rules in point of saying, first of all, I think just like when you meet with the seller, I have to sign a listing contract with you. I think when you want to be a buyer's agent, you have to have a buyer's contract. And that's saying, this is how I work. As a representative, what I can do, what I can't do, meaning I can't do things that are illegal. I can't dual agency. I can't do this. I can't do that. Here's how everything works. Here's how I'm paid, and this is my fee for service. My fee for service is decide what your fee is. X. Okay. Stop making it so the listing agent's job is the job to get you paid. And what I mean by that, in a positive way, is if you're gonna continue to rely on that as an industry, don't complain as buyer agents fees get less and less and less, because I can pretty much, we'll put this on today's 2021, by 2025, there will be no more buyer agency. It'll be a big zero. And I think it'll be even sooner than that, okay, because the Department of Justice, that's what they're trying to do this. If you want a representation, just like the seller wants representation, the seller hires an agent and the buyer hires an agent. You sign an agreement saying you represent me, okay, and that'll get rid of all this, whoever finds me a house, I'll use. It'll be, it'll also boil it down to quality agents will be left because it's going to be the quality agents that have value, that could show value to their clients, that will be hired, because that's how it's worked with listing agents for years. People go to the listing agents that have the biggest value that they can offer them, and they hire them, and those people dominate the market.
Of course.
There's some other business that comes out, but that's about 80% of the business is done by 20% of the people.
Yep.
But the buyer business is radically changed, and it's not good for the industry because you've got 8,000 realtors running around, have no clue what they're doing, selling 2 or 3 houses a year. And they have no clue what they're doing, and they make our lives a lot tougher. They do this full time, and the consumer pays for it at the end because they get a bad experience. Where if they would solidify and say, hey, you hire people, well, now the game changes, is who I choose I'm going to hire for an agent. Because I'm not just going to use anybody. Because how many times have you sold a property and people were like, Sadiq, I like you. My cousin, just got his license. I got to bring him in, and you got to pay him $10,000.
Yeah.
I know you put the whole thing together, but I got to, and we're kind of like, well, that's nice. I got to pay this guy $10,000 to do nothing. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes it's better to tell these agents, why don't you just stay home? I'll send you a check. I'll put the whole thing together. You're just going to get away. But do you see, if the industry ran that way, which is pretty much how every other industry runs, where you want to be my listing agent, I hire you and I pay you. Maybe now it would be half of the 10%. Now it would be 5%, whatever the agreement would, right? And then somebody else hires someone else, and they pay them, whatever they agree to pay them, and everybody's clear on who represents who, how things work. Now, who wouldn't like that, Sadiq? So follow the money. Who wouldn't like that?
DOJ.
Well, no, DOJ would love that.
Not DOJ. And NAR.
Because what would happen? Membership would go down.
Exactly.
Right. So, I'm not a fan of NAR. They got us hostage. If we want to play their game, we got to pay our dues and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's BS, and we all know it's BS. And you talk to most people, they're like, I don't know what they do for me, because they just act like they do. But they're basically like politicians. They want to control the game because they get $80 billion a year in revenue from dues, and they want to control it. So they make these rules to control it. But does that benefit the consumer, or does that benefit them? And I think we all need to start realizing who's getting benefited here, and it's not us. And as they make these rules that they sit there and make it sound good with, like, everybody's going to put their listings in our systems, you got to realize that's just commoditizing how real estate's done. And when you commoditize things, it's very easy for a company like Zillow to come and go, all right, now we're a real estate company, and we'll do it for a lot cheaper.
And that's exactly what happened.
So they're not on our side. They keep on acting like they're on our side, but they're not. And Department of Justice is saying the same thing. This is not benefiting. So the problem with the real estate industry right now, if it's very self-serving. It's not focused on the consumer. It's not focused on training. Case in point, to be a hairdresser in Rhode Island, you have to do about 1,000 hours of continuing ed.
Yeah, exactly.
How many hours do you have to do to be a real estate agent?
Was it like 45 or something like
hours,
that?
45. So you're going to jump over a wet log, and you got a real estate license, and you can control the biggest decision that someone's going to make in their life, financially for the most part. But to cut someone's hair, you got to do 1,000 hours. So why do they want to make it so stringent?
What's the logic right there?
There's no logic. We just want to get as many people in. And case in point, 88% of agents fail within 3 or 4 years. Yep. Would you buy a franchise that 80%, 90% fail within 5 years?
That's true.
No. It's just get them in here, give us the dues, get out, right? And then we're left with poor experiences, poor reputation. People have a poor experience, and it really starts out to 40 years ago, buyer agency fee came out, and how they structured it, that the listing the seller pays a listing agent, and the listing agent then pays a buyer's agent to come in there. That now it's come, which made sense then, but now it's come to the only reason buyers for the most part want, as you said yourself, a buyer's agent is for representation. And I 100% agree they should have it. I just agree the buyer should pay for that for them.
Interesting.
Just like you would if you hired an attorney. You ever do a for sale by owner? For sale by owner, the buyer says, well, I'll either pay an agent or an attorney to represent me. That should be done every day. And that's what the Department of Justice wants. And that's how it's done in everywhere part of the world. So people watching this right now, before they get angry with me, okay?
Because there's going to be some people. So there's going to be some people that's going to be with you. And there's going to be some people that are against what you're saying.
You can be against it as much as you want. You can be on a train that's going to New York, and you think it's going to France. It's going to New York. As much as you want to sit there and be against me, I'm telling you where this is going, and I'm telling you what the Department of Justice is doing. And this has been coming down for a long while. Unfortunately, they just, the dinosaurs didn't like it either, I'm sure. But this is where it's going, and why they want it to go this way is to protect the consumers. And if you're all on the NAR train, okay, you're going to see where that's going to go too, because people are pushing really hard and sitting there going, that's why Department of Justice pulled out the pocket listings. They know the play with NAR is doing and MLS is doing. They like to sprinkle a little truth into their story of this is for equality, so everybody has access to this stuff, and they're trying to control it so it can't go anywhere else. As a business move, I get it. I'm just telling you where it's going is why they're trying to bust that up. It's just in there saying there's only one show in town that everybody can put their listings in. Well, that's really like, imagine if there was only one automobile maker.
Yeah.
Remember if Ford was the only. Yeah, there'd be a lot of trouble right there because now, the only way you can put a house on the market as a realtor is you have to put it in our database.
So what you're saying, right, is that NAR, they try and monopolize the situation because that's basically what the antitrust.
But what are they doing? They are saying the only way Sadiq and Nathan can put a house on the market is you have to put it into our computer.
Yeah.
They have a server. We put their information in their server, and you have to follow all our rules. You have to do all these things, and you have to jump up the way we tell you to jump. And if you don't, you're out. Okay, but do I have another option? I can't be a realtor and be an MLS. Like, if you gave everybody the option, you tell me. There's any odds going to watch this, then I'm going to get a letter in the mail. You tell me though, right? Is like, if you could be a realtor, would you be a realtor and pay your dues and be an MLS? Or if you could just pay MLS to be an MLS, would you, and not have to be a realtor, what would you do?
If I could just pay my due, then.
So it's $1,000 a year to be a realtor, be an NAR, and be an MLS, right?
Yeah.
But if you just had to pay $99 a year to be an MLS, and you didn't have to be associated with the realtors, and it was just $99 a year, you didn't have to pay $1,000 to NAR.
Obviously, what makes sense?
Which one would you do?
The 99.
And 99% of realtors do the same thing. So the only benefit of being a part of those association of realtors is I have access to MLS.
Yeah.
So they really, and their move in business has to be, we have to control the data, because if we allow this to open up and go to other places to get data, let's say Zillow opens up an MLS for real estate agents and they don't charge any fees to be part of it, or they charge $100, there's going to be a mass exodus, right? So we're sitting on $80-something billion a year. We better make people's rules. And so they're making the rules. You got to put a listing within 24 hours. You have to do it the same. But
There has been a lot of changes.
Yeah, but that's commoditizing. That's saying, well, then me and you can't do business different. I can't do business different because you do business the same way, I do business the same way. It's a commodity. It's the same exact thing. You know, it's milk is milk is milk. There's 2% or 1%, but what's the difference? So it makes it very difficult to also be unique and different and have value, because you're just like, well, we're all doing the same thing. So it's kind of cannibalizing yourself. And people just can't see that far in the future.
You mentioned pocket listing a lot. For those that don't understand what you mean by that, what do you really mean by that?
MLS has put that term pocket listings on. It's mean like, sometimes sellers don't want to put their house on the market right away. Sometimes sellers like, listen, I'm thinking about getting $1 million for my house. If you can get me a buyer, but I don't want to be on MLS. I don't want all this stuff. You got a buyer for the property, bring them by, I'll sell them the property. A high percentage of sellers want to do that. They don't want to deal with the whole putting signs out front, or maybe having just the public come into the house. Yeah, MLS is so for years, since 40, 50 years, 100 years, you just say, this is my off-market stuff. This stuff's not coming on the market. And then we have the stuff that's on MLS that these people want the full gamut of exposure on MLS. But we need to understand, I get the idea of people saying, so that would be a pocket listing. I didn't put it in MLS. So we need to understand, though, with people watching this, is a lot of people say, yeah, man, but if you don't put a house in MLS, how are you doing the best job for the seller, not expose it? But you need to understand, there's a lot of people that don't want it to be on MLS. They understand. MLS is not the only way to sell houses. We need to stop acting like robots, okay, that just have to be like, I get listing, I enter listing into computer, sit back, phone calls come in, I sell houses, because that's making it. We need to understand that we need to get creative of how to sell houses without MLS. Does that make sense?
No, it definitely does.
Before MLS, and when I got into real estate, we would do other things besides just fast forward. Real estate has just become enter data sheet, put in MLS, sit back. And it puts it everywhere for me. All right, well, you got another master controlling your business there. It's like that we forgot how to market, how to attract buyers, how to put buyers and sellers together. What does a seller want, you think, when they put a house in the market? What's their biggest thing? Number one thing that they want?
Getting the sale, getting the client for the house.
Absolutely. You know, people I ask, they will say, well, top dollar. That's number two. The lowest commission, people love to think the lowest commission. It's not. The number one thing, you said it right there, is they want the house sold. They want a buyer for the house, right? There's different ways. We can't just sit there and say everybody's got to be Henry Ford in the beginning. Said, I will make any color car you want as long as it's black. And they started doing that for a long time. For 30 years, 20 years, they made, and Ford owned 50-something% of the market. Chevrolet came around and Chevrolet said, hey, we'll make you a blue car, we'll make you a black car, we'll make you a yellow car, we'll give you 4 cars, and they started taking over the market until Ford eventually had to succumb
Sense kicked in
and say, hey, we need to offer different colors. Okay, MLS is doing the same thing. MLS is saying you can sell any house any way you want as long as you put it in our system. Well, no, I really can't sell a house any way I want. I can't offer different levels of service.
Controlling.
And Department of Justice is now saying, well, maybe Nathan would sell the house for cheaper if he didn't have to put it in MLS.
Yeah.
But you won't let Nathan do that.
Yeah.
Right? And so
they have Nathan by the kahunas.
Yes.
Agents by the kahunas.
So it's Henry Ford. The only way you can buy any color car you want as long as it's black. Well, MLS is saying you can sell any house any way you want as long as you put it in our system. And Department of Justice say, well, we see that as a monopoly. They have a lot of other things that they dig it into, but I think people say, listen, if you don't agree with me, you don't agree with me. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm just telling you, 18 years of business, 4,000 houses sold. I know how the process works. I can see where they're trying to do with this. The future is going to be, if they continue to push on this, a mass exodus of NAR. Because it's going to be entrepreneurs that say, I don't want to do business that way. I guess I have to stop leaving this to do that. And then they'll get people to stay. But I don't think it is. I think at Department of Justice pulled out, which is the first time it's ever happened. And that the Department of Justice made an agreement with the National Association of Real Estate. You need to tell people what the Buyer's Agent Commission is. You also need to stop telling buyers it's free to work with me, okay? Because that's not true.
Stop steering them too.
Yep, you need to stop telling people that it's free to work with a real estate agent because it's not, okay? And they had a couple other things. And then the pocket listings thing's been coming out for about a year, and Department of Justice, the first time that's ever been done before in any industry, stopped and stepped away and said, well, we want to do this. And the rumor on the street from Department of Justice is that it's because of this pocket listing thing, because they can see, Department of Justice can see what MLS and NAR are doing. So I think the smart people in business are getting that, and you're seeing other things. So that article that you could attach to this, I'm sure, with the Rex lawsuit. Rex is saying echoing a lot of things that I don't agree with everything they're saying with it. So I hope what I can say with this, Sadiq, is that you and maybe some viewers out there would be see where things are going, get ready for it. I simply believe that how the industry should be is, as a buyer's agent, you hire a buyer. You pay the buyer's agent to represent you. As a listing, you pay that. And that'll be cheaper for everybody in the long run. It will also make higher demand or higher class of agent, because the agent now has to step up their game, which is good for me and you, okay, for who they want to compete with. You'll get rid of the people that are just like, I work a full-time job and I do some real estate on the side and I sell some stuff. Those people kill the industry. The people like me and you will be able to thrive, and we need MLS to step out of the way and stop chaining us to, you have to do business the way we tell you to do business, because that's not a free enterprise that we live in.
That's crazy. Oh, sorry about that. I almost knocked Nathan's TV off the wall with my big head. But Nathan, this was definitely a great interview. I really wanted to sit down and discuss this whole thing with you. But one of the key factors that I have, or question that I have for you right now. If people needs to get a hold of you to, get a hold of and just discuss some more things with you, or just gain some knowledge from you, how can those individuals contact you?
So we're always trying to, our vision here, okay, is to always do things different, challenge the status quo, okay, and think differently than the industry, okay, to propel and go forward and build quality lives. So we're always looking to build quality life. So when you called me, I was like, yeah, man, let me see how we can help you and help each other out and build quality life. So if anybody have any question, want to talk more about it, they can feel free to reach out to me directly, 401-232-7660. We do classes and stuff all the time. We're always looking to elevate, build quality lives. You can check out sellmorehomesnow.info. Get more information there, what we're able to do and how we operate.
That's dope. You guys know what it is. It's your man Sadiq, where communication is key, advocating for the people's bliss, and knowledge is inspiring. Until next time, you can catch me on all my social media platforms, whether it's my team, the Davies Group, or my podcast, Experiences with Sadiq. And also, if you guys love what you guys heard today, and you guys want to continue just gaining more value, definitely please subscribe to my page on YouTube and follow me everywhere. Until next time, love you guys, love, peace, and that happiness. Great job, dude. Great job.